Well, for the neutral, it was an entertaining fixture. I'm not sure about Brighton or Manchester City, and if it helps them at all, but it was a good one at the Etihad. Manchester City 2, Brighton 2, and the Seagulls do Chelsea a favour, I guess, because Man City remain in fifth, but with a point over Newcastle United, who play the Carabao Cup final, of course, against Liverpool. Chelsea remain in fourth, and the Seagulls and the Hertzler continue to fight for European places. Welcome to ESPN FC Live. Luis Miguel Echegaray joined by the ever lovely Janusz Michallik.
Hello,
Janusz,
young man.
How are you, my friend? I'm good. I miss you.
I'm doing well.
How are you? Good. All right. Listen, give me your thoughts here. 2-2 Man City against Brighton. Is anybody out of this fixture the happier out of the two, or do you think somebody really wanted to win this one?
No, neither is happy because I think both felt that they could have gotten all 3 points, right? I mean, the number of chances really for both sides. If you look at towards the end of the game in particular, at one point I thought Nico Gonzalez, I think everybody remembers that header, right? He's got to score that from that distance, absolutely free. And, I think at that stage, City would have seen 3 points out, you think, because, a couple minutes later, Baleba, I'm not sure who put it on the platter for him, but right, I mean, above the crossbar, absolutely free, for me, a sitter, and he could have won it for Brighton. So this is the sort of we see two teams that aren't afraid to play. Now with Manchester City, I'm sure you're going to ask me that. We're going to get that. What's wrong with them? I think we all know. For Brighton, it's just superb. They've beaten them at home and came very, very close to do a double over Manchester City. They certainly weren't afraid to play against them, as they are not afraid to play against anybody. It's a tremendous season for Brighton, wherever it ends.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually wasn't going to ask you what's going on wrong with Man City, because actually today specifically, I thought exactly what you just said. I actually think that Brighton deserved to win this on the very fact that from what you saw in the second half, and you mentioned the sitter as well, Man City had 60% possession, whatever, we've always seen that, but Brighton had more shots and the same amount of shots on target as well, and glorious opportunities. So I guess my question is this to you, at this point in this game, do you think that over the course, especially from the second half, Brighton really deserved those 3 points more so than Pep Guardiola's Manchester City?
Yeah, I thought when you look at the big chances, I think it was fairly even. I think the one thing that you have to say, even ahead of this game, that, a team like Brighton will always look ahead to play Manchester City the way they are in transition, as we've seen. I mean, this is a quick Brighton team that's good in, on a counter, obviously good in possession, but they strike quickly, and they've done that today. And that's been an issue for Manchester City the entire season. It never has been because, look, Manchester City at their best, I'm not saying that they were tremendous defensively, but as we all know, the pressure and the way they won the ball back and, injuries aside, Manchester City just gives you so many chances game in and game out today. I mean, really, if you had to sit down, there were close to 10 chances that Manchester City, yeah, I'm talking half chances here and there, but how easy they broke to the middle, and created chances from the outside or through the middle. So Brighton was always looking forward to that. But yes, I mean, to answer your question directly, if Brighton were to win this game, I don't think there'd be any complaints, and I don't think anybody would say, hey, against the run of play. It was wide open, as we knew it would be. City had a number of chances to put them away, but didn't take advantage. Marmoush scored, but also had a great chance, if you remember. So, I mean, fairly even. I suppose, a draw is all right when you look at that game as a whole, but this is not what you expect from Manchester City at home.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's definitely not, especially from what we've seen historically speaking. And you mentioned the chances as well. Kusanov played, Marmoush played. You mentioned Nico Gonzalez. Do you think the new signings have at least helped Pep Guardiola in 2025? How have you seen them overall?
Yes, Marmoush. Omar Marmoush is a money well spent. 4 Premier League goals. I mean, he hasn't been all that long, right? You need to integrate yourself into a team like Manchester City. Still a lot of stars. They may be underperforming, but it's not easy to get in there when you know, for example, that Haaland will always play. What I like from him was the role he played today, because I see him more central, right? Than when he first came in. We've seen him play in wide positions. Some of it was maybe injuries, maybe Pep trying him in different ways. But but I think, when he plays off of Holland and can still drift left or right, which he likes to do, mostly left, that's good. Raish, we don't see him enough. Kusanov, I think in the midst of all of this, it's kind of actually a good thing that Manchester City have significant injury problems in the back line, because I think he's getting minutes that he would normally didn't get. And remember, the very first game, it was a bad start for him. Then I think as of late, he's looked all right. Today, an own goal, there's nothing he can do about that one, right? I mean, it's I'm not going to put it down to him.
It's not his fault.
But I think with him, after a bad start, you almost think to yourself, when you come into a massive team like City, he's ahead of his plan, right? That integration won't take now summer in the next season. He's already got the feel for it. He's played a lot of minutes, as I've said. So I have to say that these two players have helped.
Yeah, they've definitely helped. I mean, Marmoush was the man that earned that penalty for Erling Haaland. He scored his own goal as well. You mentioned Nico. We talked about Kusanov. I mean, listen, Janusz, Brighton, Fabian Hurtzler, his first season in the Premier League with him, the youngest manager historically in the Prem. I mean, they're still fighting for a European spot. They're still fighting for a Champions League spot, because now fifth is definitely confirmed for the Premier League for a Champions League place. They're seventh because of this result, 47, 2 above Villa and 1 just behind Newcastle. But even though they have a game in hand, even with Newcastle, but 2-1 behind Manchester City, who win that fifth. How impressed have you been with Brighton? Can they get higher in the table this season? Where do you see them, I guess, by the end of the campaign?
Look, I mean, it's going to be difficult, right? There's so many fighting for that. But partially, just for me, I would love to see him get there. You know why?
Yeah.
Look, you're talking about Brighton, perfectly run club. Absolutely perfectly for their size, anywhere, it's Premier League or anywhere else. Remember Graham Potter, was so good. He left. What's going to happen? De Zerbi comes in. He leaves. My goodness, what's going to happen? Now you have a new manager. Same thing, same story. Of course, they will always sell. But part of me thinks that, what if, right? What if they were up there in the Champions League, right? Then maybe, just maybe, they wouldn't sell as much as I think they will. And maybe even strengthen, right? Because you have those expectations. I don't know if they would do that. But yeah, I mean, you look at that club and you say to yourself, they certainly deserved it over the years, because this is not one season wonder, right? I mean, they've been very, very good. For the last few seasons, it just that, the managers, when you need to go, they let him go. They already have a plan for the next one, just as I'm sure they have it now in their head in case they have to. And same goes for the players. So it's just, what you have to do when you're a club the size of Brighton.
Yeah, I am in complete agreement with you. One of the best clubs run anywhere, not just the Premier League. And they continue to fight for European place, by the way, in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup as well. So, they've still got some things to do. All right, before we move on to the next game, Ipswich against Forest, Man City, are they, because Chelsea will be the happier of the three teams here. Obviously haven't played yet. They're playing Arsenal on Sunday, but they remain in fourth, fifth. Man City, for the moment, are fifth, but they do have a game in hand over those teams. Will Man City secure one of these Champions League spots?
Yeah, I think they will. Somehow they will get it for a number of reasons. I think there's going to be 5 spots anyway, so I don't see them. They often look uninspired. As a player, I got to think that for some of these guys at Manchester City, you think to yourself that it must be a torture to play like this. Like it's as if they know they have to see out the season, because when you're a player at Manchester City, some of those big names, when you're used to winning absolutely everything, it is uninspiring to kind of, it's one thing. I guess it's one thing, not to win, not to be in the Premier League title race, but it's another to be kind of completely out of everything that they really hold dear, right?
Yeah, it's alien territory. It's alien territory.
So it's just unusual for these players, because some of them will leave anyway. But I mean, there's obviously a feeling that even if you think you're leaving and the season's kind of over, right? You still got to pay it back to Pep, don't you? I mean, you've won so much and you're going to remember that forever. And, who knows, maybe you'll never win anything like that, a top trophy or Champions League. So they know they owe it, but you can sense it. That is just when everything's gone. Well, FA Cup is the only one. They've got to get to the top 4. There's still a lot to play for, obviously, because you want to be in the Champions League next year for those that are staying. And it's the FA Cup, but that's not going to be easy. I think they're away to Bournemouth, and Bournemouth themselves have been absolutely tremendous as well. So it's so difficult. I imagine for Pep and everybody else to show up every day, kind of look at their faces, try to motivate the way he does, and Pep yet knows deep inside it's like that's nearly impossible to do that. He knows that they're not here to be playing for what we just talked about.
Yeah, it's alien territory for them, but
It
such is the culture of Pep Guardiola that you expect almost perfection. So like you said, very weird for them. And like you said, they still have to play Bournemouth also in the quarterfinals. And by the way, in the Premier League, obviously, it's looking okay for them for a Champions League spot, but they still got a Manchester derby. They've got to host Villa. They've got to play Bournemouth again as well. But it should be, I think, I'm in agreement with you. I think they should just about get it done. I'll tell you who almost is there, Janusz Michallik, Nottingham Forest, with a 4-2 victory after beating Man City last weekend. They felt good, and now, obviously, we knew that it was going to favor the Tricky Trees against Ipswich Town, who are obviously fighting to stay in the Premier League. They were 3-0 up. Ipswich got 1 goal back, then they scored again, so it was 4-1, ended 4-2, and they can almost taste Champions League football. Just a word on Forest, regardless of the game today, but just how they've been doing and how they're getting closer and closer, Janusz, to Champions League football for 2025, 2026. Amazing.
Speaking of alien territory, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
City, look, this is the biggest story of the Premier League for me, right? Because as much as you think, okay, Liverpool, none of us expected, but it's Liverpool Football Club. You know that they can, that they have the talent, that this is not just totally out of left field. This is not Leicester City in terms of what Liverpool are doing. So, other than that, you tell me, this is incredible. Because all of us predicted that they'd fall away, right? I'm sure we had a number of conversations, you and I, here, a month ago, whatever. Yeah, that bad patch is going to come. Well, guess what? It's not coming. It's incredible. For those of us that are of a little bit of age like me, I love it. I love big clubs, and both of them are big clubs. So, I don't love it for Ipswich because I remember them in Europe. But speaking of Europe, this is Nottingham Forest that, in my day, they dominated Europe, and let's not be afraid to say that. Domination of 2 years. They've won the European Cup, what is Champions League right now, 2 seasons in a row in 1979 and 80, and for the longest time we were sitting here when they were in the championship, or oh my goodness, be great to see those big names like Forest, like Ipswich, maybe even Sunderland's, and those names that haven't been around for a while. So this is absolutely incredible, and fair play to them, because more than anything, they are truly the definition of a team.
Definitely, 100%. The most collective team in the Premier League. They're so together. I remember seeing an interview a few weeks ago on another network with, I think it was Aina and perhaps it was Callum Hudson-Odoi, and they were laughing together. You could sense this chemistry. So aside from understanding the football under Nuno Espirito Santo, they are all very close. And you can sense that when you watch them play in the counter-attacking. And to your point, 2-time European Cup champions, which is an unbelievable thing. Would you say here, okay, so just to remind everybody, in the Premier League, Forest are third. They have a game in hand over Arsenal. Obviously, they play tomorrow against Chelsea, third, but only a point behind Arsenal, which is incredible, and looking good for the Champions League. I know that if Liverpool win the Premier League, Arne Slot will obviously be up there for the contender of Manager of the Year. But Nuno Espirito Santo, how much credit would we give him, would you say?
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it if you want it. That's for sure, because they'll get there. I can only imagine. We were just talking about the atmosphere in Manchester City, what it must be. Imagine coming every day to training the way they are after this. It's jubilation, because not only their team, but they're incredibly patient right now, because they know they need to be, right? It's a consistent team effort every game. They are so patient within a game because they know they have to be, because they don't have a brilliant player that can change the game for them game in and game out, right? They have to count on each other. And when you look at that, I mean, the strength and goal with Cells, you look at, Murillo we liked, and look at Milinkovic coming.
A goal and an assist today, Milinkovic.
Goal and an assist, right? We all remember him at Fiorentina. I mean, that partnership there is absolutely incredible. I mean, Olaina, right? You saw that note somewhere before this game. I mean, most recoveries in the defensive third out of any player in all top 5 leagues in Europe. I mean,
amazing.
Just in the Premier League, that would have been enough. I'd be like, wow, really? So, you look at Elanga, right? One of many Manchester United players who seem to play better when they leave, and I didn't really mean to talk about Manchester United, but he's been absolutely incredible. And what can you say about Morgan Gibbs-White? I mean, again, 2 assists today, right? This is a team that relies on him to some degree. This is a team that once again scored 2 or 3 goals in transition on a counter. They're deadly, and that's their game, right? And they're so good at it the moment they win the ball. So if you look at Gibbs-White, I mean, he probably is on the list, could be on the list of any club in the Premier League.
Yeah,
right?
And
yet Thomas Tuchel didn't call in. I know
that's where I was going.
That's incredible, because I mean, if there's one player that deserved, in terms of consistency, the work ethic and what he does, okay, Thomas Tuchel, as I've said, there are a number of players there that you look at and say, yeah, in that position, fair play. But to me, it's a mistake. I would have given him an opportunity, given him a chance right now, because Thomas Tuchel can't afford to do that. So and then Chris Wood. I mean, what can you say about him? I mean, you look at the man, and when you think of maybe, great technical players, he's not one of them. But no matter where he goes, he delivers, right? He delivers goals, and so everything that's happening in Nottingham Forest is not by chance, because they've stayed the course, and that's important. And I think they will be up there. They will be in the Champions League, and they will be back. And we'll be talking then about the old, European titles.
It will be quite a sight to see City Ground welcome Champions League football
Ipswich
next season. Yeah, Ipswich, Leicester City, who play tomorrow, Southampton. There is an argument to be made that they're probably looking at the worst top 3 teams that have come up in recent years. I think
Ipswich are going down. I mean, I didn't see, because we just got on. I mean, I'm assuming the Wolves saw that.
Wolves won 2-1 against Southampton.
And I mean, yeah, anything's possible, but I think Ipswich are going down, as you mentioned. Saints obviously, and Leicester City, I think, as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, unfortunately, so for them. But good news for Forest in 3rd place. Anthony Elanga getting a brace. Jota at the end before Milinkovic opened the scoring. Ipswich got 2, but it was 4-2. And Forest, you can just smell the Champions League. Unbelievable. Janusz, Michallik, Luis Miguel Echegaray. Have a fantastic rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Till then, bye-bye.